Hello, boys and girls of the internet. My name is Beard in Marketing, and today I'm going to take you through a marketing analogy. It's called the mirror and window analogy. Now, I want you to go back to the video that we posted yesterday, the video that was about creating aspiration for the consumers, tapping into their passion points and creating aspiration. Now, I want us to delve deep into that today. Now, when we think of a brand needs to create aspiration. It needs to make a consumer feel like, I want to do whatever I want to do, but then with this brand. If I'm traveling, I want to travel wearing this brand, for example. If I am going out, I want to go out, but I'm wearing this dress brand. If I am going to eat good food and I want to get a good culinary experience, sorry for the kid who's crying in the back, apologies for that. But if I want a good culinary experience, I know that the best culinary experience that I'll get in Nairobi, for instance, will be at your Inti, for example. Because, they have good food, the experience is awesome. Like, they have made a brand out of that, and they've created great aspiration in that regard. Now, one of the things that is very important when creating this aspiration is not to look like you're out of reach for your consumer. I'll give you an example. So, for example, I want to sell these sunnies. Actually, the sunnies is not a good example. Let's say I want to sell a luxury brand of watches. So I want to sell luxury brand of watches. Let's price the luxury brand watches at, let's say, 20,000. So 20,000 bob, right? In terms of my content, what I decide to do is I decide to go rent out a really nice house in Karen, for example. I decide to rent out a car, let's say it's a Range Rover. I'm creating content around that because I know the kind of people that are going to be affording, the kind of people who want to, the kind of people who will be able to afford to buy the watch that I'm selling, find these things aspirational. They find like a house in Karen aspirational. They find a Range Rover, a car that is aspirational. Maybe right now they're not driving a Range Rover. They're probably driving, I would say like maybe an Audi. They're driving an Audi A4. They aspire to hopefully be promoted, and hopefully soon they'll be able to drive like a Range Rover. I know those cars are very different, but then it's just for the case of this analogy, right? So if I am selling that watch and I'm creating content around this house in Karen, you'd get a lot of people who find this kind of lifestyle aspirational and within reach. If they work hard enough, they'll be able to get that lifestyle. They'll be buying that watch because they know what that watch means. It means that they'll be able to get to that lifestyle that they saw in the content that you had put out. So you've created aspiration. But then let's use the same content, but let's change up a few things. Right now, the house is not in Karen anymore. Let's take the house to Cape Town, maybe Campsby. The house is no longer in Karen, now it's in Campsby, Cape Town. And now we're no longer doing the Range Rover, you're doing, say, Rolls Royce. The market is still, I would say, Kenya. But then all of a sudden, you've switched up everything. The cost of the watch still remains the same. The cost of the watch remains at how much we had offered it initially. But then because you've changed to these two variables, now you have a house in Campsby that looks super aspirational, like it looks like somewhere movie stars would live. And then now you've also put in a Rolls Royce, which is in Kenya associated with the ultra rich. Me as a consumer, I might feel alienated. In as much as maybe I can still afford the watch, I might feel like, hey, this brand is completely out of reach for me. Because right now I am looking at getting a Range Rover and maybe a house in Karen, and what you're selling me is a house in Campsby and a Rolls Royce. And those feel a bit out of reach. So one of the most important things in this analogy, in as much as your brand should be a window where the consumer feels aspiration, the brand should also be a mirror. The mirror meaning that the consumer should be able to see themselves in the brand. Once you become like, let's say you're marketing to the upper middle class in Kenya and you become super luxury, what will the upper middle class in Kenya feel? They'll feel like, hey, this brand is out of reach for me. They might be able to afford the product, but then how you've communicated in the content, you've made them feel alienated. they don't feel like that is aspirational anymore. They feel like that is something for the movies. That is something I see in the movies. It's not a life that I would necessarily ever get to live. It feels out of reach. They might look at it and be like, oh, that's a dope ad. But then they won't go into the detail to look at how much is the cost of this watch. Maybe the cost of the watch is 20,000. They can afford that, but they won't go to look at how much is the cost of the watch. Why? Because you've alienated them. In your advertising, you've gone to premium, right? So these are some of the things that we need to be very conscious about when we are brand building. How do we ensure that your brand is a window so that it's still serving aspiration, but it's also a mirror so that the consumer can see themselves in that brand? So that would be my talk for today. I hope you guys get out something from that. You get something out from that. I don't know why my English has gone there. But yeah, it has been Beard and Marketing, and I think I'm going to close this one here today.